Armando, what was the biggest lie from Roger Goodell yesterday?
That the people that requested confidentiality to go ahead and be part of the investigation that was done to the Washington Commanders' toxic workplace environment would not want a report out there. In fact, there have been other NFL investigations where confidentiality was granted and reports were written. And in those reports, people who requested confidentiality had their names redacted from the reports. Whereas yesterday, Roger Goodell is saying we can't have a report because we can't, tell people who is saying what. And there was a congressman who said, and rightly so, you had other reports where people requested confidentiality and their names were redacted, and that established confidentiality. Why can't you do the same? So that was the biggest, I think, you called it a lie, Jonathan. I want to be a little bit more artful and call it a fib and call it a truth. But yeah, it was a lie.
Where did the not knowing anything about Dave Portnoy rank, considering, as Hutton reminded us, Dave Portnoy was the high bidder on the watching a game with Goodell in his basement in that chair, which the NFL rejected.
Yeah. So, I don't know what Roger Goodell knows and doesn't know about the Barstool president, Paul. I really don't. I know that a lot of people know the guy. I had a little run-in with him, I think, like 6 years ago. And trust me, I am aware that he, he's got followers. And so, look, the idea that Dave Portnoy came up in a congressional hearing and some other stuff that came up, Deflategate came up in that the altitude of games and Deflategate coming up. I felt like my tax dollars, your tax dollars, everybody's tax dollars were probably being, kind of misspent right then and there.
How much more misspent do you feel there'll be next week, considering what we're likely to hear or not hear from Dan Snyder?
I don't think Dan Snyder is going to show up. I really don't. And I think that he's going to hire a legion of lawyers if it comes to that, to make sure that, he doesn't have to show up. I would be surprised if Dan Snyder does in fact show up under subpoena. First of all, the subpoena hasn't been issued yet, but I would be surprised if that's the case. What I've been told is he's trying to run out the clock. Look, there's an election coming up in November, and in that election, most political pundits would tell you they expect the majority in the House to change dramatically from majority Democrat to majority Republican. And once, or if that happens, Dan Snyder is not going to have to, be in front of Congress, and definitely not in front of the Oversight Committee. So that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to run out the clock.
I discussed this yesterday and threw this question out, Armando, and help me with this, if there's even a possibility of something truly great coming from all this. What is the best conclusion to all of this? Is it simply that the NFL has to turn over all of their findings, that there's more transparency, even if not in this case, in the future, that we learn more about John Gruden's side of things and the lawsuit against the NFL? Like, what actually comes of all of this that's happening right now?
Well, I would really like for there to be a report and redact the names. I don't see anything wrong with that. I haven't heard anyone make a cogent argument against that. And so that's where I think would be the sweet spot. I'm obviously a reporter. I always want more transparency and more information.